Good morning, everyone. YTTNhunter here with some tips on finding ginseng that would be appropriate for the Middle Tennessee area, which is where we're located. This is a view early morning looking up a hollow out in some woods that are pretty typical of where you would find ginseng. If I look on around here, there's a small side hollow that comes down here, a low place in the ridge that comes down to the main hollow. And then the main hollow continues down to the creek down there. But this morning I wanted to show you what I use to dig ginseng with. It's an old head found on the shed of my grandpa's shop. Put a nice long hickory handle in it. Does a really good job. It's got one blade that's about 3 inches wide, another that's 1.5 inches, and they're about 5.5 inches long. It's light but strong. Does a really good job of digging whatever you want to dig. Does a really good job of digging ginseng. Something that's very important here in Middle Tennessee, we got lots of ticks and chiggers. Mosquitoes are a little bit of a problem, but the main thing that you need to be worried about is ticks, and chiggers will sure get you too. We use a combination of this repel product here, which is Permanone. Now it's for treating clothing only. You don't want to spray that on your skin, but you pre-treat your clothing with the Permanone and it'll kill the ticks dead as soon as they crawl up on your pants or on your shirt. And the other thing we use for the killer combo is some high DEET off or repel product. If you can get something up in the 40-50% range DEET, that'll sure do a good job of stopping the chiggers, and it'll help on the ticks and mosquitoes too. Some other things that I carry include a fanny pack and a 2-liter bottle full of nice cold water. Starts off cold, but as you hunt ginseng all day, you'll appreciate it even if it's warm. But you do need to carry a lot of water. It's often pretty hot here in the mid-90s in the early part of the ginseng hunting season, which starts August 15th. And so having a lot of water is good. I usually carry a can of beanie weenies too for a simple lunch. But anyway, pack that along in a fanny pack. And here's something you might want to consider for carrying your ginseng. It's a really simple bag made out of an old pair of blue jeans. You simply cut the leg off, sew it good on the end with some heavy-duty nylon thread. My wife makes 3 or 4 passes along the bottom with her sewing machine to sew it up real good. You basically turn it inside out, sew it, and then when you flip it back around, you got a nice finished bottom to it. And the top part is actually the bottom or the cuff part of the blue jeans, and you can just cut you a couple of slits in that and it fits on your belt. Works real good. You've got a narrow top and a wider bottom. You can just put your ginseng in there, keep it on your belt. It's real handy. Makes for a nice way to tote your ginseng when you're out in the woods. Now I'm going to take a look around here and show you some ginseng I found in this location. Often here in Middle Tennessee, when you're coming down a hollow, when you get to the point where there's a side hollow that comes down like this one, that kind of triggers the appearance of ginseng. It likes to grow in places like that, and that's the case here with this little side hollow. There's several young 3-prongs growing right here. They've all got the seeds, the flower pod developing down in the middle. There's another one. Obviously reproducing here. There's several little 2-prongs and 3-leafers. There's another 2-prong, another little 3-prong, and right there's probably the best little 3-prong in this bunch. One thing, when you find ginseng growing low in a hollow like this, you always want to look on up the hill a little bit, because it typically will grow. You'll find it often on up the hill a little bit higher. Here's another little 2-prong and a couple more little 2-prongs growing here up the hill. As I go on up the hill here, here's a pretty nice 3-prong. And if you look down in the center there, you can see the berries starting to develop on the flowers there. That comes out the middle where the prongs split off. And there's some little 2-prongs and another little 2-prong there growing under it, obviously reproducing naturally. As you go on up the hill here, which is often the case, you may find a nice plant growing on up higher on the hillside. And there's a pretty good 3-prong growing right here. Look down inside, you can see where the flower spike is, and it's starting to make berries too. Now I'm going to take a stroll here on down the hollow a little ways. Just kind of bear with me a minute. Show you a few more plants I found down this direction. Right over here we see a plant here in Middle Tennessee, and I expect in other areas that you often find growing where ginseng grows. We call them pointer plants or companion plants. This is called a maidenhair fern or angel hair fern. It's a pretty little fern that's kind of got a U-shaped center to it, and then the fern leaves just kind of dangle down, kind of like maiden's hair. That's where it gets its name. And just across the hill here a little bit from it, there's another nice little 3-prong growing. And if we truck on up the hill here a little bit more, along old logs like this is a good place to find ginseng. You always want to check them. It just likes to grow along old logs. There doesn't happen to be any growing there. But if I go on up the hill here, there's some more maidenhair fern growing. You always want to check good where you find this companion plant, because there probably is some ginseng growing around. And you can spot the maidenhair fern a little bit easier than you can the ginseng. When I look up the hill here, there's a whole bunch of maidenhair fern growing. Beautiful little plant. And well, you know, run right down there in with it. A nice little 2-prong plant. If we go on around the hillside here a little bit, there's some more ferns growing over here. It's not maidenhair, it's just a different kind of fern. There's a little 2-prong going under it. There's a nice little 2-prong and a 3-leafer growing. And a pretty decent little ginseng plant right there. And another one growing down under it, a little 3-pronger. That's it for this morning. Y'all have a good day.